Hi readers, Lee here. Welcome back to my channel, Lila Wanders and Reads. Hello to all the new subscribers out there. Happy to have you here. Hope you get something out of this. So today, the day that this video will post, is the 23rd anniversary of 9/11. And it's unbelievable to me that so much time has passed. So I wanted to start this book stack off with some books about September 11th. One I've read on audiobook, one I've read half of, or maybe a third of, and one I have not read at all. But we'll start with the one that I highly recommend, and that is The Only Plane in the Sky by Garrett M. Graff. This is an oral history of 9/11, and I highly recommend the audiobook. I recently read another audiobook of his about D-Day, and one of the things I like that he does in this book and that is in the audiobooks they have different voices reading the different, memories for different people. So there may be a paragraph here and it's read by one voice, and then the next paragraph is read by another. And this book had all the accents. It is so moving, because my generation, at least, we all remember where we were on 9/11, just like people from my grandparents' generations remember where they were on D-Day. And hearing it brought back memories, and I also learned about so much that I hadn't learned, because there was a lot of experiences. And at one point, I was driving home from Kinston, North Carolina, and I thought that I was going to have to pull over and start sobbing. I fought it, but the heroism and people's stories of loss and trying to find people that were missing was just so moving. So if you only read one book about 9/11, this is a good one, because you get all the experiences. The next book is the one that I have not read at all, because I think I book called it at some point this year, and I don't know why I have not read it yet, except that it is nonfiction, and I've had my focus on other nonfiction. That is The Day the World Came to Town, 9/11 in Gander, Newfoundland. This is by Defede. I look forward to reading this. They made a smash hit musical on this. Because this is a part of 9/11 that I didn't really consider. My family and I were so appalled and aghast at the images of the towers crumbling, and then finding out that there was another plane and another plane, that I didn't even consider about what happened to the people who were in the air at that time and then all of a sudden had to be grounded. When 38 jetliners bound for the United States were forced to land in Gander, Newfoundland on September 11, 2001, due to the closing of U.S. airspace, the citizens of this small community and surrounding towns were called upon to care for thousands of distraught travelers. Their response to this challenge was truly extraordinary. Oz Fudge, the town constable, searched all over Gander for a flight crew member so that he could give her a hug as a favor to her sister, who managed to reach him by phone. Ethne Smith, I'm not sure, an elementary school teacher, helped passengers sheltered at the school contact loved ones all over the world. And members of a loyal animal protection agency crawled into the cargo holds of the jets to feed and care for all the animals on the flights. Whew. The Day the World Came to Town is the remarkable true story, beautifully told, of a community that exemplified love, kindness, and generosity during one of the darkest chapters in American history. I'm going to have to remember that I have this and I want to read it. Again, really look forward to reading this. So the next book is the final book about 9/11. And if you think that one made me tear up, I've got sticky notes on this, because I had to stop reading it because I knew I was going to just be a puddle of tears. And that is, I'm going to finish it one day. I just have to take it in little bits and pieces. Dog Heroes of September 11th, a tribute to America's search and rescue dogs. I'm going to try not to tear up here. Part of what makes this so heartwarming or heart-wrenching is that they couldn't find any survivors. So there were these search and rescue dogs who were trained to look for live human beings, and they weren't finding any. They also had, so this book, this is an updated edition. It was published on 10th anniversary, so I guess 2011. So this talks about, y'all, it's got pictures of the dogs. So it's sectioned off. World Trade Center. Then it's got a section on the dogs and their handlers at the Pentagon. The Fresh Kills landfill, where they were looking to search for human remains from the rubble that had to be transported here, from what I understand. I haven't got that far. Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Sorry, this is awkward, but I'm not sorry because it's important. And then a section on 9/11 therapy dogs. You can't see that. There you go. And then a whole damn section. Sorry. I missed. I'm not sure what this section is, but there's a whole damn section called In Praise of Their Partners, and it talks about what's happened to the dogs since. Look, by now, all of them have passed on. It's been 23 years. But many of them, by 2011, had already passed on. Heartbreaking, but appreciative. And then finally, they talk about the dogs of war. Again, haven't got that far, but I'm currently in the World Trade Center part. No, I just got to the Pentagon. And when I say just got, I mean several years ago. One of the heartwarming things about the first part that I've read is that so many of those search and rescue dogs not only searched and did their job on that, but when it was downtime, they provided comfort for the searchers, the human searchers. So, it's a lot. I do recommend this book. I think it shines a light on an aspect that's seen, but just goes down more into the role that the dogs played. Now, that was a lot. But I do like to take time out every year, whether I'm on video or not, to remember September 11th, what happened then, what's happened since, and just never forget to stay awake and keep my eyes open and pay attention to what's going on with the world. But now to a lighter subject. This is kind of a book haul. It's not really one, but last week I read 2 books back to back that had movies made about them later. I watched one of the movies in full. It was a rewatch. Loved it. We'll love it forever. And then the other one I started, and then it veered too far, at least in my opinion, from the book, and I stopped it really quickly. So today's book haul or book stack is going to be 3 books that have had movies or some sort of streaming made about them. I start with my new favorite author, Blake Crouch, Dark Matter. This is on Apple TV, which I have, but I have misplaced my remote, so I can't watch Dark Matter because I don't know where my remote is. So, if you've watched any of my more recent videos, I am a huge Blake Crouch fan now. I read Recursion. earlier this year. I just finished last month the Wayward Pines series, so I am going to take a break before I go back to him, but I saw this at the bookstore and I couldn't resist. Are you happy with your life? These are the last words Jason Desson hears before the kidnapper knocks him unconscious. Before he awakens to find himself strapped to a gurney, surrounded by strangers in hazmat suits. Before a man he's never met smiles down at him and says, "Welcome back, my friend." In this world he's woken up to, Jason's life is not the one he knows. His wife is not his wife. His son was never born. And Jason is not an ordinary college professor, but a celebrated genius who has achieved something remarkable, something impossible. Is it this life or the other that's the dream? And even if the home he remembers is real, how will Jason make it back to the family he loves? That's it. If I ever find my Apple remote, I might give this a watch on Apple TV. I rarely watch Apple TV. I don't know why I pay for it, but anywho. So, next up is 2 books by the same author that I didn't realize were novels at the beginning. The first, actually, I'm going to save the best for last. The first one is the authorized edition of The Price of Salt, or Carol, by Patricia Highsmith. I've watched this movie. It stars Cate Blanchett. It's fine. I watched it so long ago I don't really remember what's going on. So let's find out what happens in the book. Okay, so this was first published in 1952 under the pseudonym Claire Morgan. And it was touted as the novel of a love society forbids. Became a cult classic, yada yada yada. Based on a true story plucked from Highsmith's own life. I did not know that. The Price of Salt tells the riveting story of Therese Bellevet, a stage designer trapped in a department store day job, whose routine is forever shattered by an erotic epiphany. The appearance of Carol Aird, a customer who comes in to buy her daughter a Christmas toy. Therese begins to stalk the alluring suburban housewife who is trapped in a marriage as stultifying as Therese's job. They fall in love and set out across the United States, pursued by a private investigator who eventually blackmails Carol into a choice between her daughter and her lover. Interesting. Can't wait to read that. I wish all these books didn't have... I'm going to try to read this one without my glasses. Anywho, back in high school, I think it was in Virginia, I took a class on films. And our teacher focused primarily on Hitchcock. And I have since long been a Hitchcock fan. I know he was problematic toward women, but I still like his movies. What I didn't realize was that the movie Strangers on a Train was a novel by Patricia Highsmith also. So if you've not seen Strangers on a Train, I do recommend it. It is a great movie. In this, Guy Haynes and Charles Anthony Bruno are passengers on the same train. Haynes is a successful architect in the midst of a divorce. Bruno, a mysterious smooth talker with a sadistic proposal. He'll murder Haynes' wife if Haynes will murder Bruno's father. As Bruno carries out his twisted plan, Guy finds himself trapped in Highsmith's perilous world, where under the right circumstances, ordinary people are capable of extraordinary crimes. So this was the inspiration for his classic 1951 film, Strangers on a Train, and this launched her prolific career. This book launched her prolific career. proving her a master at depicting the unsettling forces that tremble beneath the surface of everyday life. She also wrote The Talented Mr. Ripley. I will have to look into more of her works. So, that is all the movie tie-in books that I have. I want to, as I wrap up this video, take a moment and go back to the 9/11 remembrance portion, just to share a little personal story. That's not going to make me tear up, probably. In September 2011, I was living and working in Arkansas, and my cousin had just passed away. So I went down to Louisiana for the funeral, and only in the South, I swear. At the funeral, I started talking to a friend of the family, and she offered me a job interview. And the morning of the interview, my sister was there. She had come down from North Carolina, and I was getting dressed and getting prepared for the interview. My sister was helping me with my clothes and my makeup and my hair, and all of a sudden, my brother-in-law called and said, "Turn on the TV." And that was Tuesday, September 11th. I ended up, not long after that, getting a call, and my interview was canceled and moved to a day or two later. I got the job, by the way, but I will never forget that. My sister had to get on the road to get back home. She was active duty Army at that time, and we just were, like everybody, stunned and horrified. And I will never forget. I don't remember much of the rest of that day, except we watched TV all day long, and I'll just never forget that moment when we turned on the TV and realized what was happening, and then everything changed. A year and 4 months later, I was in Afghanistan. Anywho, somber note, somber day, but happy reading. If you have any stories about 9/11, I'd love to hear from you down in the comments. If you have any other books about it, I'd love to hear your recommendations. Or if you have any movie books or books that were made into movies, I'd love to hear your thoughts on any of these. That's it for me. Happy reading.